I let him think he won the house. And for a while, I let myself believe it too. Not because I didn't know what I had paid. Not because I didn't remember every late night, every overtime shift, every yes I said at work when I was exhausted, just to keep the mortgage automatic draft from bouncing. I let him think he won because it was safer, in the moment, to look defeated. Because the kind of man who wants to win a house after a divorce isn't really after the house. He's after the moment you finally admit you're smaller than him. And I wasn't going to give him that. The day it started, the sky over West Seattle was bright enough to make everything feel fake. Like a movie set with perfect lighting. The kind of day that tricks you into thinking nothing bad can happen because the sun is out. Ethan Parker stood on my porch like he had always belonged there. Same clean haircut, same expensive watch, same posture that said he believed the world was built for him and everyone else was just renting space in it. He didn't knock. He used the key, my key, the one he had promised he'd return when the judge signed the decree. I was at the kitchen island with my laptop open, reviewing a compliance report for the hospital network I worked for, trying to pretend my life was still normal. My coffee sat untouched because my stomach had been tight for days. Like my body knew before my mind did that something was about to snap. When the deadbolt turned, I didn't jump. I just looked up slowly, like I expected it, because after 11 years of marriage, you learn the rhythm of a person's entitlement. Ethan stepped inside and didn't even glance at the framed photo on the entryway table. Not the one from our first anniversary, not the one where I'm smiling with my hair windblown, holding a paper plate of cheap barbecue like it was a luxury. He walked past it like it was decor in a hotel. "You're still here," he said. Not, "Hi." Not, "How are you holding up?" Just that. I closed my laptop gently. Calm hands, controlled breathing. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I didn't let it touch my voice. "It's my house," I said. Ethan smiled like I'd told a joke. He tossed a folder onto the counter. It slid toward me like a dare. "It was your house," he corrected, voice smooth, practiced. "Now it's ours. But I'm the one staying." Behind him, his mother came in like she'd been invited. Denise Parker wore pearl earrings and a pale cream coat, the kind of coat that never meets rain. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And behind her, a woman I didn't recognize at first. She was young, maybe late 20s, long glossy hair, nails done, a beige trench coat that looked like it had never been sat in. Ethan didn't introduce her right away. He wanted me to ask. He wanted me to feel the humiliation of giving her a name. So I didn't. Denise looked around my kitchen like she was inspecting an Airbnb. "Well," she said, tapping a finger lightly on the counter, "at least you kept it clean." I stared at her. My hands stayed flat on the island. No shaking, no visible reaction. "You can't just walk in here," I said. Ethan leaned his hip against the counter, totally relaxed, like this was a business meeting he'd already won. "Sure I can," he said. "I have rights." My chest tightened, but my mind stayed clear. Because I'd been expecting him to try this. I just didn't know how fast he would. "Tell me what you think you're doing," I said. Ethan flipped open the folder and slid out a document. "Temporary occupancy agreement," he said. "Part of the settlement." I didn't reach for it yet. I'd learned not to grab things from him, not to react too quickly. I just looked at it. Then I looked at him. "You're not on the deed," I said. Denise let out a soft laugh, like I was adorable. Ethan's eyes narrowed, just slightly. The smile stayed, but the warmth disappeared. "You really want to play that game?" he asked. I held his gaze. "I don't want to play any game," I said. "I want you out of my house." That was the moment the young woman stepped closer. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't gloating. Her expression was neutral, like she was trying to look supportive. But her eyes kept flicking around the kitchen, to the backsplash I'd chosen, to the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself, to the window seat I'd built with a contractor 2 summers ago. She was measuring the space, claiming it in her head. Ethan finally turned toward her, one arm sliding around her waist, with a casual intimacy that felt intentionally placed, like a weapon laid on the table. "Oh," he said almost lazily. "This is Tessa." "Tessa." She gave me a small nod. "Hi," she said softly, and I understood instantly. Ethan had brought her here for one reason, not to introduce, to invade. Denise watched my face like she was waiting for me to crack. I didn't. I kept my voice even. "Congratulations," I said. Tessa blinked like she wasn't expecting that. Ethan's smile sharpened. "Thanks," he said. "We're moving forward, and we're doing it here." My stomach turned, but I didn't show it. "Where is here, exactly?" I asked. Ethan tapped the document again. "This house," he said. "You'll be leaving." I slowly pulled the folder closer, not rushing, not shaking. I scanned the top page, and there it was. A paragraph I had read during mediation, back when my brain was overloaded with grief and legal language, and the shock of watching someone turn your shared history into a negotiation. Temporary exclusive occupancy granted to husband until refinance or sale. It was written in cold, neutral words. No mention of me. No mention of the fact I had bought this house 2 years before we met. No mention of the fact that his name had never been on the mortgage. I felt the heat rise in my chest. Then I pushed it down. "Exclusive occupancy," I said quietly, eyes still on the paper. Ethan nodded. "You see," he said, "I'm not a monster. We did it the legal way." Denise leaned in, voice dripping with fake sympathy. "It'll be easier if you just cooperate, honey," she said. "Dragging this out will only embarrass you." Embarrass me. Like being removed from my own home was a social mistake, not a moral one. I looked up at Ethan. "You can't force me out today," I said. Ethan's eyebrows lifted. "I can," he said, and his tone changed, just a fraction, into something harder. 30 days. That's what we agreed on. After that, I file. Sheriff shows up. You leave. He said, "Sheriff," like he was ordering delivery. My pulse thudded once, heavy, like a door closing. Then I nodded. Not because I agreed, because I wanted him to think I did. Ethan's eyes brightened. He mistook my nod for surrender. Good. I slid the folder back toward him and let my shoulders soften. "Okay," I said. Denise's smile widened like she'd been starving for it. Tessa exhaled, relief flickering across her face. Ethan's grin turned victorious. The kind of grin that always made me feel like I was standing on the edge of something dangerous. "See," he said. "Was that so hard?" I stood up slowly, calm, controlled. "I'll need time to pack," I said. "Of course," Ethan said. "Be reasonable, be mature, don't make a scene." A scene. Like leaving the house I paid for was a polite ritual. I nodded again. And Ethan relaxed so much it almost made me sick, because he believed he'd won. He believed I was finally obedient. He didn't see the way my mind was already moving, already calculating, already tracing every line of that agreement back to the one thing men like Ethan always forget. Paper cuts both ways. He and Denise stayed for another 10 minutes, walking through the living room like they were touring a future that belonged to them. Tessa lingered by the stairs, staring at the hallway that led to the bedrooms, the hallway where my life had happened. Ethan finally turned at the door. 30 days, he reminded me, voice cheerful, and then this becomes my home again. Again, like I had been the temporary guest. When the door shut behind them, the house fell silent in a way that felt almost holy, like it was holding its breath. I stood still for a long time, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic, the creak of the floorboards under my bare feet. Then I walked to my laptop. I opened a new tab, and I typed in the one thing I knew Ethan would never bother to do. King County property records, because Ethan loved drama, but I loved facts. Within minutes, I found the deed. My name, only my name. The mortgage, also only my name. And the lien history, clean. No clouds, no co-owners, just me. Which meant the occupancy agreement, the one he was waving like a victory flag, wasn't about ownership. It was about possession. And possession is a game that can be flipped if you know the rules. I opened the PDF of the settlement agreement, scrolled to the occupancy clause, and read it again. Slower this time. Word by word. Not like a scared ex-wife. Like a compliance analyst who had spent a decade finding the tiny lines where corporations tried to hide their lies. And that's when I saw it. A phrase I had missed before. Because it wasn't bold, it wasn't underlined, and it wasn't written for someone emotional. It was written for someone careless. It said the temporary exclusive occupancy was granted. Provided husband remains current on all agreed obligations, including but not limited to spousal support and shared debt allocation, and provided no material misrepresentation occurs. Material misrepresentation. My throat went cold, because Ethan had been lying since the day he asked for divorce. Not big lies, small ones, the kind that felt harmless, until you stack them together and realize they form a wall. I stared at the screen, heart steady now, because I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt focused. I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app, the joint credit card account we had agreed to close, still showing activity, 2 charges from this morning, a furniture store, and a deposit from a rental truck company. He was already buying things, already planning his move, already spending money. That wasn't his, in ways that violated the agreement. And that's when I understood exactly what I needed to do. Not scream, not fight him on the porch, not call the police and beg someone to care. I needed to let him keep thinking he won, long enough to step into the trap he built for me, and then close the door behind him. I picked up my phone and called the one person Ethan hated more than any judge. Not because she was loud, because she was quiet. And when quiet people speak in court, everyone listens. My attorney answered on the second ring. "Claire," she said, "I was just about to email you." I stared at the settlement clause on my screen. "Ethan came to the house," I said, voice calm, "with his mother and a girlfriend." There was a pause, then softly, "What did he do?" I breathed out slowly. "He told me I have 30 days to leave," I said, and I told him, "Okay." Another pause, this time longer. Then my attorney said the words that made my pulse finally spike. Not with fear, but with something sharper. "Good," she said. "Now tell me everything he touched." And I smiled, just a little, in the quiet of the kitchen. Because my attorney understood what Ethan didn't. Sometimes, the fastest way to win is to let someone else celebrate first. My attorney's name was Dana Reeves, and she never raised her voice. That was what made her terrifying. She didn't fight like a person trying to prove something. She fought like a person who already had the receipts and was simply deciding when to show them. Start from the beginning, Dana said. Every word, every document, every threat. So I told her. I told her about Ethan using my key, about Denise walking into my kitchen like she owned the air, about Tessa's quiet little hi, like she wasn't standing in the middle of someone else's life. Dana didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finished, she asked one question. "Did he put anything in writing?" she said. I glanced at the folder still sitting on my counter, like it was a snake that hadn't decided whether to bite. "He left a copy of the occupancy agreement," I said. "No," Dana corrected gently. "Did he text you, email you, anything that confirms his timeline or his intent?" I opened my messages and scrolled. There it was. A text from Ethan, time-stamped 3 minutes after he left. 30 days. Be out by March 15th. Don't make this ugly. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Dana. Donna's tone didn't change, but I could hear the shift underneath it, the way a storm shifts the air pressure before you see the clouds. "Okay," she said. "Now check the spousal support payments." My stomach tightened again, because we had agreed on a number, a fixed amount, automatic transfer, clean and simple, on paper. I logged into my account, and my throat went dry. The payment that was supposed to hit 2 days ago hadn't. There was nothing pending, nothing processing, nothing. "He didn't pay," I said quietly. Dana exhaled like she'd been waiting for that. "Then he's already in breach," she said. "And that clause you just found, the one about remaining current, matters." I looked around my kitchen, and for a second I saw the house the way Ethan saw it, not as a home, as a trophy, as leverage, as an object he could move people around with. "I don't want to get dragged into another court fight," I said, and I hated how small that sounded even though it was honest. Dana's voice stayed calm. "You're not dragging yourself," she said. "He is. You're just refusing to be pushed." I swallowed. "What do we do?" Dana paused. Then she said, "We let him keep thinking he won, while we document everything." Document. That word steadied me, because that was my language. Evidence, timestamps, patterns, material misrepresentation. "All right," I said. Dana gave me a list like she was handing me a checklist for survival. "First," she said, "change nothing yet. Don't lock him out. Don't confront him. Don't warn him. Let him keep moving forward." My skin prickled. "You want me to let him move in?" I asked. "I want you to let him attempt to move in," Dana corrected. "Second, install cameras if you don't already have them." "I do," I said. "Doorbell cam, backyard, garage." "Good," Dana said. "Download all footage. Keep it backed up." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Third," Dana said, "pull your credit reports today, all 3. We need to see if he opened anything new." My heart thumped once, because a year ago I would have said Ethan would never do that. But a year ago, I didn't know he was capable of walking into my kitchen with a girlfriend like I was furniture. "Okay," I said. "And fourth," Dana said, "check the shared debt allocation. Any joint cards? Any accounts he promised to close? If he's charging new items, he's creating new shared debt under the settlement. That's another breach." I pulled up the credit card activity again. 2 charges, furniture store, and a deposit for a moving truck. He wasn't just preparing. He was building a paper trail that said, "I'm moving in. She's moving out. This is mine now." Dana continued. "And fifth, Do not leave the property for long periods. If he tries to claim you abandoned the home, we shut that down. My stomach tightened. Abandoned, I whispered. It sounded ridiculous. And yet I knew men like Ethan could make ridiculous sound believable if they said it with enough confidence. Dana's voice softened slightly. Claire, I know you're tired, but you can do this. You don't have to fight loud. You just have to stay smart. After I hung up, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, looking at the light on the hardwood floors. Then I started moving, not packing, not surrendering, preparing. I opened a folder on my laptop and named it Ethan Breach. Inside, I created subfolders, texts, payments, credit, footage. I felt a strange calm settle over me, like my brain had finally stopped grieving and started building. That night, I didn't sleep much. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed, a credit monitoring alert, new inquiry. My heart lurched. I opened it, a lender, home improvement financing, and the inquiry was tied to my social security number. I stared at the screen, heat flashing through me so fast my hands actually trembled. Ethan. He was trying to finance renovations, on my credit, for my house, while telling me to leave. Material misrepresentation, shared debt allocation, breach. It wasn't one thing. It was a pattern, and patterns are what courts understand. I forwarded the alert to Dana immediately. Then I pulled all 3 credit reports like she told me. One report showed a new account attempt, not yet opened but initiated. Another showed a soft pull from a second lender. He was shopping, with my identity. I sat back in my chair and stared at the wall. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a dramatic way, not in tears, in clarity. Ethan wasn't just trying to win the house. He was trying to erase me from it. Like I had never been the one who signed the closing documents. Like I had never been the one who wrote checks for the roof repairs. Like I had never been the one who held his hand when his father died. He was rewriting history because he believed he could. I didn't cry. I opened my bank account again. I printed the last 6 months of statements, spousal support payments, inconsistent, one late, one partial, one missing. Then I printed the joint credit card activity, charges that weren't mine, the moving truck, the furniture. Then I downloaded the doorbell footage from that afternoon. Ethan entering with the key, Denise behind him, Tessa following, all of it, crystal clear. Then I waited, because Dana had said something important. Let him attempt to move in. Let him build his own case against himself. The next day, Ethan texted again. I'm bringing a contractor Friday to measure the upstairs. Measure, like the upstairs was already his. I stared at the text. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. And I did what Ethan never expected. I replied calmly. Okay, I'll be here. No fight, no argument, just okay. Friday came and the sky was gray and low, a Seattle drizzle that made everything feel damp and heavy. At 9:03 a.m., a white van pulled into my driveway. A man in a hoodie got out with a clipboard, then Ethan's black SUV, then Denise's beige Lexus, and then another car, Tessa's. I watched through the window without moving. The doorbell cam caught everything. Ethan walked up first, smiling like he was walking into his own living room. He didn't ring. He used the key again. The deadbolt turned, the door opened, and he froze. Because I was standing right there, not in pajamas, not disheveled, not broken. I was dressed like I was going to court, black slacks, white blouse, hair pulled back, earrings simple, and behind me, on the kitchen island was the folder, neat, organized, prepared. Ethan blinked, then recovered quickly. "Hey," he said, too cheerful. "Good. You're here." Denise stepped in behind him and looked at me like she was annoyed I hadn't evaporated. Tessa followed, eyes darting nervously. The contractor hovered at the doorway like he wasn't sure if he was walking into a renovation or a hostage situation. Ethan waved him in. "Just quick measurements," Ethan said. "We're going to open up the master bath, make it more modern." He said "we," like I wasn't standing in the house at all. I smiled politely, the kind of smile you give someone at work when you already know they're lying. "Before anyone measures anything," I said, voice calm, "I need something in writing from you." Ethan's smile stiffened. "In writing?" he repeated. "Yes," I said. "A confirmation that you are current on spousal support and that you're not using my credit or my identity to open new accounts." The contractor looked up sharply. Denise's eyes narrowed. Tessa's face drained a little. Ethan let out a laugh. Too loud, too fake. "Claire," he said, stepping closer, lowering his voice like he was talking to a child, "don't do this. We have an agreement." "We do," I said, "and you're in breach." The word landed heavy. Ethan's smile twitched. Denise leaned forward. "What is she talking about?" she snapped. Ethan shot her a look like, "Not now." But I wasn't done. I slid my phone across the counter and tapped the screen. A screenshot of his text. 30 days. Be out by March 15th. Then, the bank statement showing the missing payment. Then, the credit alert. Then, the furniture charge. Then, the moving truck deposit. I didn't shove it at him. I just placed it there, like evidence on a table. Ethan glanced at it, and for the first time, something flickered behind his eyes. Not guilt, calculation, because he realized I wasn't playing the role he had written for me. "You went through my finances?" he snapped. "No," I said, still calm. "I went through my finances, the ones you were supposed to contribute to, the ones you're using without permission." The contractor shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Tessa took a small step backward, like she was trying to make herself invisible. Denise's mouth tightened into a line. Ethan leaned in, voice low and sharp. "You're trying to sabotage me," he hissed. I met his gaze. "No," I said. "I'm documenting you." Silence, just a beat. Then Ethan straightened and put his smile back on, like he could paste it over the moment. "Fine," he said loudly, turning to the contractor. "Ignore that. Go ahead and measure." The contractor hesitated, eyes flicking between us. And I realized Ethan was counting on something. He was counting on me not wanting to make a scene in front of strangers. He was counting on my old instinct to keep things polite. So I did something else. I looked at the contractor and smiled politely. "I'm sorry," I said. "Before you step further into my home, I need you to know this property is not legally authorized for renovation under my name, and any work performed without my written consent will be disputed." The contractor froze. Ethan's eyes widened just slightly. Denise inhaled sharply, like she was offended by the idea of consent. The contractor slowly stepped back. He said. I need to make a call." He turned and walked out to his van. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're embarrassing yourself," Denise hissed. I looked at her. "I'm protecting myself," I said. Ethan stepped closer again, voice dropping. "You think this is cute?" he said. "You think you're clever? You're still leaving?" I tilted my head slightly. "Am I?" I asked quietly. And that's when his phone buzzed. He glanced down. His face shifted, barely, but enough, because whatever he saw wasn't good. I didn't ask what it was. I didn't need to. I watched him swallow. Then he said, "We'll talk later." And he turned sharply, walking out. Denise followed, muttering under her breath. Tessa lingered for 1 second, looking back at me with an expression that wasn't hatred. It was fear. Then she hurried after them. When the door shut, I exhaled slowly. My hands weren't shaking. My heart was steady. Because now, I knew. Ethan was still confident in public, but something was moving under the surface. Something he hadn't anticipated. I walked back to my laptop, opened my folder, and saved the footage labeled "Attempted Renovation, Friday." Then I waited for Dana's call, because the next step wasn't screaming. It was strategy, and Ethan was about to learn the difference. Dana called at 4:27 p.m. Her voice was the same calm as always, but there was an edge underneath it now. The kind of edge you hear when someone has found exactly the piece they needed. "I filed an emergency motion," she said. My stomach tightened. "Emergency?" I repeated. "Yes," Dana said, "because he's attempting to exercise occupancy rights while in breach. He's also potentially committing identity misuse. The judge will take that seriously." I paced slowly through the living room, phone pressed to my ear, eyes drifting to the bay window where the street looked ordinary. Like my life wasn't a legal storm waiting to break. "What happens now?" I asked. Dana paused just long enough to make my pulse rise. "We have a hearing date," she said, and I requested immediate temporary relief. "Relief," I echoed. Dana's voice stayed level. "Meaning?" "We asked the court to suspend his occupancy rights until he's current on obligations and until the credit issue is investigated. If granted, he can't enforce that 30-day timeline." I stopped pacing. "Can't enforce," I whispered. The words felt unreal, like sunlight after weeks of rain. Dana continued, "I also sent a preservation letter. He is not to destroy texts, emails, financial records, anything. If he does, it becomes worse for him." I pressed my free hand to my forehead. "Dana," I said, voice tighter now, "he's going to lose it." "I know," she said softly. "That's why you keep cameras rolling." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "You really want to do this? You're making it ugly." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I showed Dana via screenshot. Dana's response was simple. "Do not reply," she said. "Let him talk. Let him dig." So I didn't reply. That night, Ethan didn't come, but at 10:13 p.m., I received an email notification from my bank. Password reset attempt. Then another. Then another. I felt cold spread through me. He was trying to get into my accounts. I called the bank immediately, changed everything, added multi-factor authentication, set verbal passwords on every conversation, and locked my credit. I didn't sleep. At 6:41 a.m., a car pulled into the driveway. I watched through the window. Ethan. He stepped out like he was arriving at a crime scene. Jaw clenched, shoulders tight, no smile. Denise wasn't with him. Tessa wasn't with him. It was just Ethan, and a man I didn't recognize holding a clipboard. A process server. My stomach flipped once, but then steadied. Because I had been preparing for this. Ethan marched up to my porch and rang the bell 3 times in a row. Aggressive. Impatient. Like the house was refusing to obey. I opened the door calmly, chain still on. Ethan's eyes flashed. "You think you're funny?" he snapped. The process server cleared his throat awkwardly. "Ma'am," he said, "I have documents for you." I looked at Ethan. "Documents?" I asked. Ethan's lips curled. "Eviction notice," he said. "I told you, 30 days. I'm not playing." I looked down at the documents, then back up at him. And I did something that made his face change. I smiled. Not a big smile. A small, controlled one. "Thank you," I said to the process server. "I'll accept those." The man handed them over, relieved, and stepped back like he wanted no part of our history. Ethan leaned in, voice low, venomous. "You're done," he said. "You hear me? You're done." I looked at him. Really looked. The man I had once loved was standing on my porch like an invader, and he still believed intimidation was power. I held the papers loosely. Then I said quietly, "Did you pay the spousal support?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's none of your—" "Did you?" I repeated, voice calm. He hissed through his teeth. "It's being handled." "That's not an answer," I said. Ethan's eyes flicked to the process server, then back to me. "Stop stalling," he snapped. "You're leaving." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. Ethan blinked, thrown off by the lack of fight. Then his expression turned smug again. "Good," he said. "Finally." He turned to walk away like he'd just won a trophy. I watched him descend the steps. Then I called after him, still calm. "Oh, Ethan?" He turned annoyed. "What?" he barked. "I'll see you in court," I said. For a second, the smugness slipped. Just for a second. Then he scoffed. "You think you have a case?" he said. I lifted the eviction paper slightly. "I think you do," I said. "Against yourself." His eyes narrowed. Then he spun and walked to his SUV, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the glass. I closed my door gently, slid the chain off, and locked it. Then I placed the eviction notice on the counter, next to my evidence folder, like it was just another document in a long file. 2 days later, we were in court. Not a dramatic courtroom like TV, a family court courtroom with beige walls, fluorescent lights, and rows of tired people clutching folders like lifelines. Ethan sat at the respondent's table in a navy suit, posture perfect, jaw tight. Denise sat behind him, face stiff with rage. Tessa wasn't there. That told me more than any testimony could. Dana sat beside me, calm, composed, flipping through a binder thick enough to be a weapon. When our case was called, the judge looked exhausted before he even looked at us. He adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Parker," he said, scanning the file, "you are seeking enforcement of an occupancy clause and initiating eviction proceedings. Is that correct?" Ethan stood, confident. "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "My ex-wife is refusing to vacate the marital residence despite the settlement agreement." The judge glanced at me. "Ms. Parker," he said. "Your response?" Dana stood smoothly. "Your Honor," she said, "my client is the sole deed holder of the property. Mr. Parker was granted temporary occupancy rights contingent on remaining current on obligations and not engaging in material misrepresentation. He has failed both." Ethan's head snapped toward Dana. "What?" he hissed under his breath. Dana didn't look at him. She handed the bailiff a packet. The judge began flipping. Bank statements, missed payments, text messages, credit inquiry alerts, screenshots of the attempted password resets. And then, the footage. Dana played a short clip, Ethan using the key, walking in with Denise and Tessa. The judge's face didn't change much, but his eyes sharpened. Dana spoke steadily. "Mr. Parker is attempting to use the occupancy clause as a weapon," she said. He is also attempting to open financial accounts using my client's identity and credit. We are requesting immediate suspension of occupancy rights and an order preventing Mr. Parker from accessing the property or initiating further financial activity under her name." Ethan stood abruptly. "That's a lie," he snapped. "She's twisting everything." The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Parker," he said firmly, "sit down." Ethan hesitated, then sat, jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. The judge looked down at the documents again. "Mr. Parker," he said slowly, "did you make the spousal support payment due on February 12th? Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. Then he said, "It was delayed." "Delayed," the judge repeated, unimpressed. "Meaning, not paid." Ethan's voice rose. I'm changing banks." The judge cut him off. "Did you initiate eviction proceedings while not current on your obligations?" the judge asked. Ethan's face flushed. "I have rights," he said tightly. The judge's gaze hardened. "You have conditional rights," he corrected, "and conditions matter." Denise's lips pressed together like she was holding back poison. The judge turned a page. "Did you attempt to open a home improvement financing account using Miss Parker's social security number?" he asked. Ethan's head snapped up. "I didn't," he started. Dana spoke calmly. "We have the inquiry reports from all 3 bureaus, Your Honor," she said. 2 lenders. One initiated within hours of Mr. Parker texting about renovations. The judge stared at Ethan for a long beat. Then he said, "Mr. Parker, do you understand how serious this is?" Ethan swallowed. His confidence, the polished, practiced thing he wore like armor, started cracking. "I was trying to fix the house," he said, voice quieter now. "It benefits both of us." The judge leaned back slightly. "The house," he said, "which is solely in Miss Parker's name." Ethan's eyes flicked to me, and in them I saw it. Not love, not regret, fear. Because he finally understood he wasn't fighting an emotional ex-wife. He was fighting paper, evidence, a system that doesn't care how charming you are if the documents don't support you. The judge exhaled. "Here is what will happen," he said, voice firm. "Mr. Parker's temporary occupancy rights are suspended effective immediately due to breach of obligations. He is not to enter the property without written consent from Ms. Parker. Additionally, Ms. Parker is granted a temporary protective financial order preventing Mr. Parker from initiating any credit, loan, or account activity under her name. Any violation will result in sanctions." Ethan's face went pale. Denise made a sound, half gasp, half choke, like she couldn't believe the world had just told her no. The judge wasn't done. "Mr. Parker," he said, "you will provide proof of full spousal support payment within 72 hours. You will also provide documentation regarding all credit inquiries. Failure will result in further action." Ethan's hands clenched into fists on the table. Dana sat down calmly, like this was the expected outcome. I sat still, heart pounding, but not from fear, from something that felt like gravity shifting back into place. The judge looked at me briefly. "Ms. Parker," he said, softer now, "this is your residence. If you choose to sell it later, that is your decision. But at this time, you have the right to remain. Remain." A single word, and it felt like oxygen. Ethan stood when the hearing ended, but he didn't look tall anymore. He looked cornered. In the hallway, he approached me fast, face twisted. "This isn't over," he hissed. Dana stepped slightly in front of me. "It's over enough," she said calmly. "Any further contact goes through me." Ethan glared at her, then at me, and for the first time, he looked smaller, because he had come in believing he could win by force, by intimidation, by making me feel ashamed. But the truth was simple. He didn't lose the house because I fought harder. He lost because he assumed I wouldn't read the fine print. He assumed I would panic. He assumed I would leave quietly. And I let him think he won. Long enough for him to expose exactly who he was in writing. That evening, I drove home under a sky streaked with pale winter light. When I pulled into my driveway, the house looked the same. White siding, warm porch light, the window seat in the front room. But it felt different, not because Ethan was gone, because I had returned to myself. I walked inside, locked the door, and leaned back against it for a second. Then I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I breathed fully, without feeling like I was borrowing air. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was Tessa. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." He told me it was his. "Please don't contact me again." I stared at the message. Then I deleted it. Not because she didn't matter, because she wasn't the point. Ethan wasn't building a life with her. He was building a story where he was the winner, and stories fall apart when you introduce facts. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself fresh coffee, and sat at the island where he had thrown that folder like a dare. I opened my laptop, and I renamed my folder. Not Ethan Breach, not court, not evidence. I named it home, because that's what it was. Not a trophy, not leverage, not a weapon. A home. And the lesson I learned, the one I would never forget, was simple. Sometimes you don't win by being louder. You win by being patient, by being precise, by letting someone else believe they're holding power until the moment they realize they were holding the rope the whole time, and you were the one who knew where it was tied. Lesson: never mistake someone's confidence for control. Read every line, document every move, and remember, the quietest person in the room is often the one who's already won.